Let's do it. Another edition of The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. His real name is Cardale Jones. His nickname is Beanie Wells. My name is Dave Holmes. Make sure you click that subscribe right now. Hope you're watching on YouTube because we got some sick shades out of Beanie. we got Ohio against the world sweatshirt down there for Cardale. It's always been Ohio against the world. And make sure you hit us up on social at The Script OSU. Guys, we got a lot to talk about today. Let's start right out with 42-3. The Buckeyes dominate Minnesota. If you see it on YouTube, Cardale spanking the Golden Gophers over there. All right, so here's the thing. I was at the game, and I know a lot of people kind of mocked Ross Bjork before the year when they had all these new fan experience things, right? Different things at the shoe. They're going to have the towels. They're going to ring the bell, various things. Brutus is going to ride out. I'll just say this, guys. Whether it's been primetime or noon against Texas, I actually think the vibes have been better this year. I think the crowd has been a little livelier this year than years past.
That was my first time at a game this season, and seeing the stadium and hearing the fans, and then outside of the stadium, all the fan experience. I'm with you. This is probably the most exciting and things to do that I've seen at the shoe, and I don't know how long. So yeah. I'm right there with you.
I mean, college football is all about tradition, and sometimes when you introduce new traditions, people get a little squeamish, Cardale. But I mean, being there, I think the crowd's a little more hyped. Look, we wanted primetime games, ideally not against Minnesota, but still, I thought it was a good vibe.
Yeah, well, I wasn't there.
How did it play on TV? Did it play on TV well?
It played well. Well, the game I had a chance to get to this year was the Texas game, and it was crazy for it to be a noon game and everything that was going on around campus. As soon as you really got on campus, and it clearly right there in between St. John and the rotunda going into the stadium, like that whole parking lot was just filled with like things to do, right? And good to know that it wasn't just for the Texas game. This is going to be the new norm of Ohio State football. When you talk about coming to the shoe, it's an experience before you even get inside the stadium. Now, I did like everything that's going on now in the stadium with changing a few things and how the national anthem and the band running out and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. I can't wait to get back there in a primetime game, hopefully in the playoffs.
Yeah. I love the ringing of the bell. That's something that's so cool. You know, when you got a former player or somebody, a former individual tied to the university getting a chance to ring that bell, now it's going to be like a badge of honor to who gets to do that on a weekly basis.
Well, just don't be the one to ring the victory bell
and they lose.
You never do it again.
Just don't be. Yeah, you will not be invited back actually in the stadium.
Premature bell ringing is very, very embarrassing. we don't want that. All right, let's talk about the game itself. Carnell Tate, 9 catches for 183 yards and a touch. I love when we talk wide receivers, and his name's not Jeremiah Smith. Are we starting to have a dialogue here about Carnell Tate's place in the national landscape? Because if he were on any other team, he would be mentioned among the top receivers in the nation. And as I've said, he's kind of got Emeka Egbuka disease, which is you're never the main guy, so people overlook you. Then all of a sudden you go to the NFL, everyone's like, oh, you were good all along. Yeah, we've known this about Carnell. So what's your guys' take on Carnell Tate?
I most certainly think he's one of the best in the country. Outside of Jeremiah Smith, I'd say he's the top 2 or 3 wide receivers out there. You go and watch him play, watch him get in and out of his breaks, watch him make the ball adjustments. There was one play to where it was a long pass that he had. Typically, a receiver's running, right? And they look up for the ball so immediately, and that gives it away to the defensive back. Carnell didn't do it to the last exact minute. That way the DB couldn't get right there to put his hands up and swat the ball down. That's NFL type stuff that these guys are doing, and doing part to Brian Hartline, their receiver coach. So we got some of the best guys in college football to come through Ohio State. And if I'm Brian Hartline, all I do this week specifically in my recruiting pitch was just turn on the NFL game list and pull up the stats.
Tampa say, game, and Marvin Harrison had a big game.
Here you go, wide receivers. Chris Olave had a solid game.
Yeah.
This is what you want, right?
Yeah.
This is what I do. I get guys in position and teach you how to play the receiver position the best like nobody else can do in the country.
Yeah, Carnell's going to mess around and go in the first round too, Cardell.
Yeah, you know what? Carnell Tate is the best route runner in the country. Let's start there. Outside of being one of the top receivers in the country. He don't have freakishly size. He don't have freakishly unbelievable athletic ability. He got great speed, but he is the best route runner in the country. Getting in and out of his breaks, he has one speed, and that's 100% 24/7. And you see guys like Carnell, and you see guys like Jeremiah and Brandon Ennis and all these guys that Brian Hartline has coached. A lot of these guys have one thing in common, right? And I think it's the ability to be coachable. That is a huge difference when you talk about recruiting guys. It's a lot of talented guys that Ohio State, quote unquote, might have missed out on but it's something deeper than just having a talent. These guys are extremely coachable. These guys, they're selfless, right? Especially when you go in a room you got a young freshman phenom coming in the room last year, stealing some of your spotlight and some of your catches. If I'm Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis, thank God they all play together in 707 down in Florida through their high school years. But selfless and being able to be coached is two things that I can say about all of the top guys. When you mention these guys like Jeremiah Smith and Jackson Smith and Jigman and Mecca and Marvin and Chris and Garrett, and the list goes on. Coachable guys that want to be great. And clearly, if you want to be a great receiver, you go to a place like Ohio State.
Yeah, it's funny because they say developed here, but you have to want to be developed. And all those guys did. And to your guys' point there, we have a quarterback here and a running back here. Wide receivers have a tendency to be ball-wanting divas. But for whatever reason, this culture at Ohio State has not led to that, because all these guys could be number ones anywhere else.
For sure.
And guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba was never a number one. Emeka Egbuka was never a number one here. But then they go to the NFL and they're number ones there.
Yeah. And even totally. Going back to Jamo.
Yeah, Jamo.
That's another guy who was stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was here. We saw the writing on the wall with him going into the year before he transferred to Alabama. But I mean, at that point, do you blame a guy for being in a room and being behind three first round receivers and one coming in?
Mm-hmm.
Brian Hartline has done a great job. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, of his development of the receiver position and being able to evaluate talent.
And that's another unique thing, though. These guys are still choosing to go to Ohio State knowing that they're going to have to wait their opportunity, or their opportunity may not come. Mm-hmm. But I think it speaks a bigger volumes to this program, because even if you are the 2 or 3 or 4 guy, you're still going to get an opportunity to get to the National Football League. And scouts and GMs going to say, this guy's been developed the right way. So he may not have gotten a chance to get on the football field at Ohio State because of the top tier Jeremiah Smiths and Carnell Tates, but we're going to take a look at him at the next level, because we know how he was coached. We know how he was developed, and maybe the little bit of opportunity he got on the field, we saw the production there. So that's something you really got to think about and consider.
Yeah, passing game really took a step forward, I thought, in aggressiveness. Against Washington, Julian Sayin didn't throw a single ball 20 yards downfield. The deep ball was back against Minnesota, 23 for 27 for Julian Sayin. He's now north of 80% on the season. Quarterback, Cardale, take me through how a guy can go 80% plus on 5 games so far.
Dave, Beanie, I don't think I went 80% in a freaking practice period. In a practice period.
It's nuts.
He's doing this, he's doing this for 5 games into his first year of starting and being a guy at the quarterback position. And then you talk about, he didn't take shots downfield versus Minnesota. Well, Minnesota did a great job of taking away the shots downfield. Unfortunately, Ohio State got different ways to beat you. And I think, you look what Minnesota did in solid defense. They play more up close because they didn't want you to get too many underneath plays and things like that. And then you exploit them downfield. So this offense has the ability to hurt you in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. It gives defensive coordinators nightmares. And I know if I totally forgot the kid's name, but I know if I was number 17 for Minnesota. And I got a line up against Jeremiah Smith, man. And, all game. And then, they give you a break and then you go over to Carnell Tate.
Right. Right back at it.
Yeah, I'm just like, man, my team hates me. And a lot of these situations, man, they was leaving this guy on the island, which I give, clearly it speaks a lot to what they thought of him as a player. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be a great player, but tall task to ask for anyone.
Yeah. First career start for Bo Jackson. He's seen the most carries the last couple of weeks, but first career start, 13 carries, 63 yards. Beanie, you and I knew about him, but it's like Cardale just
got on
found
board,
out.
right?
So Cardale.
Whoa.
All right, so I'm messing. But Cardale tweets something out. So all right, we'll start with you, Beanie, since you were here all along on Bo Jackson. What do you make of this first start?
I loved it. Obviously, there wasn't like the big gains, and I think Minnesota's defense did a good job of trying to bottle up the running game. But I thought everything that he was able to go out there and do, get those tough yards, grind it out, and still, get those 10, 15-yard chunk runs that he's able to do, I thought was phenomenal. I thought it was a great first start, and it was something that you can build off of. I still think he's the best running back in that room, and I thought the coaching staff brought him alone a little bit slower, like Cardale wanted, and then they're starting to unleash him right now.
Well,
it's about to get real throughout the rest of the season.
So
Believe
here's
that.
the thing. When you see 6-3 yards, that doesn't pop off the page. You got to remember Minnesota was 5th in the nation in run defense. That is their bread and butter. They were only giving up 65 as a team.
Right.
All right, so the Buckeyes more than doubled that. They ran for 133 on the ground. So it's all in context there. I mean, all right, Cardale.
And the game plan. I mean, the game plan was for Ohio State to chuck the ball downfield too. So it's going to be a week-by-week basis in terms of how they unleash him.
So here's the thing. Bo Jackson's a true freshman. Let's teach Cardale who this guy is because he just found it. Go ahead, Cardale.
By the way, you're talking about Minnesota being a top defense in the country as far as stopping a run. And that's where they built. That's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
And, speaking of number 17, like I said, I keep having a brain fart on his name. We would call that check whitey. We would call that check whitey. And what that would mean, guys, historically, you don't see white defensive backs at the corner position that's, able to really keep up with guys like Jeremiah Smith. So it would have been one of those situations for us. So when I saw number 17 at corner, check whitey, I could have told you already, hey, this team's going to be good against the run. Right. Because the pass is not the priority for these guys.
I finally understand all the trash I was talked to in junior high basketball.
Check. Oh, wait, hey, check whitey. Let's go.
I was like, why is no one covering me? Why is no one covering me out here? No. All right, big game, though, for the running game. They looked better, because like we said, given the context of Minnesota, actually a solid game. The defense, guys, still hasn't given up a red zone touchdown through 5 games. We're going to talk about Penn State and Jim Knowles later in the show. It's not all good for Penn State, but Matt Patricia, my goodness, the reviews are in and they are spectacular.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's the best defensive coordinator in the country right now. I mean, the way that he's dialing up, blitzes and coverages and disguising the blitzes and coverages is even more impressive. When you got a coach that comes into a new university and you got so many new players, and to be able to get those guys to all gel and play cohesively and look like they've been out there together for years, that's an impressive thing. And that's what Matt Patricia's been able to do. Our defensive line is one of the best in the country. And the guys that we have, and the Caden Curdy, the McDonald's, the Kenyatta Jacksons, those guys, even though he was banged up, those guys go out and look so dominant. And it's the style of play in which Matt Patricia is calling up to put these guys in position to make plays on a consistent basis. I'm watching Arvell Reese, check a guard, drop back, and then go make the tackle behind the line of scrimmage. Right. That's something that's so insane, and I've never seen happen before.
Yeah, he's basically running a cone drill in the middle of the play.
Exactly.
And still make. Yeah, what do you got, Cardale?
That's the Matt. See ya. It was fun while it lasted. He would not be here after the end of the season. It was fun while it lasted. Thank you. You did a great job. Right. You just got 14 guys drafted on defense.
So you're saying enjoy Matt Patricia while we have him?
Enjoy him, yes, while we can. Unfortunately, it will be very I don't know what his contract is. I don't know how much they paid him for this year. I know it's probably a 2-3 year deal. They either they're back at the negotiating table right after the season end, however the season ends for the Buckeyes, or he's going somewhere else. But yeah, this defense is unbelievable. I know I made a comment last week that I don't know if this defense is better than the national championship defense yet. I thought that I would get closer to that synopsis later on in the season. I think I'm a lot closer now, just seeing how they're playing against 2 Big Ten opponents back to back and really dominating these guys, not giving up a touchdown. But man, it's what else can we say about this defense, man? Usually, the last couple of years, we talk about so much about the offense and the high power flying guys. But this defense, there's just a group of guys playing really well right now.
Yeah, defense get another test this week. The Buckeyes go on the road in Champaign to face Illinois. All right, so it's big noon kickoff. It's a noon game here, which means it's an 11 a.m. local kick in Champaign. I'm sitting here with 2 guys on set who have played in dreary games in Champaign, Illinois. Now, Beanie, you might not know this. 2006 freshman year scored a touchdown against No, I'm sorry, that was Northern Illinois that you scored against. But you still went 2-0 against Illinois.
I did. I had a crazy fumble versus Illinois that year. And I don't know if you guys remember, that was a national championship year. And we almost lost to Illinois. It came down to like the final seconds or final minutes of that football game. Illinois is a tough place to play. There's no question about it. One, it's going to be cold because you always play them late in the year. And if it's rainy and wet, that makes it even worse. But that's a tough place to play. I don't know whether it's just their fans or whether you're just going up there, you're playing a gritty football team. And I think this year, Illinois happens to be a better football team way better than when I was playing them. outside of the 2007 year when they had Juice Williams.
Juice Williams.
But nonetheless, Luke Altmaier is a beast. He's the real deal at the quarterback position. We talk about our quarterback completing almost 80% of his passes. Luke is right about 73, 74, 75%, and he's getting it done in the run game. So, he's a guy that this defense is going to be tested with. This is going to be a true test for our football teams, especially on the defensive side, knowing if we really have that top-tier defense, because they got playmakers over there in Illinois. And Brett Bielema, we know the type of football team these have. They're going to be tough. They're going to be physical. They're going to be disciplined. Now, they did get slacked by Indiana in the earlier part of the year a couple of weeks ago.
We'll get there in a minute.
But
we'll get there in a minute. So,
nonetheless.
So, Cardale, I'm in the press box and I'm eating eggs, before the game. It's big 11 a.m. kickoff. If you're sick of noon kickoffs, how about 11 a.m.? What do you remember about Champaign?
First thing first, going to Champaign, Illinois. As soon as we got in the night before the game, we have a team meal, and Coach Mick would make us all go to our phones and turn off the time adjustment thing where your clock automatically adjusts when you go to different time zones.
So you stay on East
because
Coast.
He's like, no, they playing on our time. We ain't playing at 11. So that was one thing to get your mind right, and then the second thing too, Coach Meyer would make it seem like it was the worst place in the world. It's like, guys, you don't want to wake up and you find yourself selling paint in Champaign, Illinois. Like, guys, you don't want to do it. So that was another thing. I didn't want to sell paint in Champaign, Illinois for whatever reason. Don't even know how much a paint seller makes. But he made it seem very scary. And then 3, I think, was just the lack of environment when we played. So when we played them, like with Beanie, they wasn't as great as they are now. So you had a 3/4 full stadium. They still played hard, but it was harder to get up for that environment than I know it's a noon game, but it's 11 there, but we're still really on our time zone with our bodies and stuff. But it is a psychological thing where you're like, oh, I'm getting up an hour earlier. Oh, it's nothing that's really amping me up to really playing this game. We're on paper already better than these guys. We should be able to just roll out our helmets and beat them. And you find yourself in a dogfight in those type of situations. So I think those are the things that really make that place a hard place to play. Now you put on top of, they are a really good team this year. Luke Altmaier is more, he can get it done in the run game, but he's really efficient in pass game as well. If you really take away that Indiana game and maybe a game or two last year for him, I mean, he's a really productive quarterback and one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten.
Before the season started, all three of us circled this one and said, this is one of the scariest games on the schedule. A few weeks ago, Indiana takes them behind the woodshed 63-10. I mean, 63-10. Since then, Illinois has wins over USC, quality win. They go on the road and handle Purdue. So where do we come down on? How do we explain 63-10? If you're Ryan Day and you're hyping these guys up and you're saying this is the scariest game we've had all year, they did lose 63-10, guys.
That's the scary part.
So how do you, is there a mental component here on that blowout loss?
Yeah, that's the scary part because they did lose 63-10 and you don't want your players to get complacent. Like, man, Indiana just smoked these guys and blah, blah, blah. Like, they're not a real, top 20 or whatever they are right now on the team. We should go out there and kill them. That's the scary part. But you also put in the factor, like I said before, the environment and everything else. This is not the same team that Indiana just crushed. I think they look completely different the last 2 weeks, especially versus a really good USC team. And I think the Indiana game was a fluke outside of, them getting back on track the last 2 weeks. It crushed my first parlay. It started me down the road.
Yeah. And that game was in Bloomington. And Beanie, if we look at let's say one of the national championship losses, all right, that you guys were in, you can see sometimes when a game starts going the wrong way, I mean, momentum becomes a thing.
Right.
And that game got away from them. And it's like sometimes the result almost doesn't matter once the game is decided the way it is.
100%. Sometimes you just get so far out of it and, it's sad to say some guys just go in a tank and just can't get themselves out of that rut. And I think that's what happened with Illinois versus Indiana. But I had a coach that I will always say they're on scholarship too. So meaning that they're on scholarship, they're going to come out trying to play tougher than they did because they experienced the same losses that everybody else experienced, and they hate how it felt. They hate that embarrassment. And Brett Bielema's a hell of a football coach. And after that game in the press conference, he was so distraught and said, I'll never be in a situation like this again. I'll never have my team in a situation to where they're this unprepared again. And, lately they've been looking like a completely different football team, especially on the offensive end.
Yeah, let me get one other note here. Something news we found out this week. CJ Hicks, defensive end, converted defensive end, and Malik Hartford's safety are both going to redshirt and sit out the rest of the season to get another year of eligibility. A little surprising, but at the same time, Cardale, when we look at Hicks, I mean, for him, he comes in as this vaunted 5-star linebacker. Then they decide to move him to edge. I mean, it's tough to switch positions late in your college career. So do you think this is just him buying another year of learning so it improves his NFL prospects?
Yeah, I mean, when you come to Ohio State, especially a highly recruited guy like CJ, the ultimate goal is to play at the next level. If he and then Coach Johnson and Laurinaitis decided the best place for him was on the defensive end side, then yeah, let him get another year developing to be that elite defensive end that they saw in him to say, hey, we think you have the ability to make that switch. Now, saying that switch was going to happen in the spring and be ready to be a full-time defensive end in the fall, I don't know if that's something that was realistic for him in the expectations, but the ability is there. So for him to redshirt, whatever is the reason and why, clearly he still have the ability. Clearly he still have the talent, and hopefully it works out for him and Malik of achieving whatever their individual goals are with this redshirt.
And Beanie, the other thing is in the NIL era, staying an extra year financially
Right.
isn't like it used to be. It used to be it's all about getting to the league. Well, some of these guys are going to make as much, if not more.
Mhm.
I mean, if you go to the NFL and you're a 6th or 7th round pick, you probably would have gotten paid more in college in many situations.
No doubt. I mean, these guys can make 6 figures in college and stand in a situation to where, like we just talked about, he can develop a little bit more. He can get better. And when you're at Ohio State, you got an abundance amount of talent. You got guys out there that are playing right now, and maybe you don't get the amount of time in which you think you deserve. So sometimes it makes sense to say, let me take a step back. I know some of these guys may be on to the draft next year. I may be a little bit better in this position switch. I come back, I stay, I still get paid. I'm still a part of the team, essentially. And next year be my year to get out there and be a starter.
Yeah, if you're part of this team or not. But one thing I love about the NIL era and the transfer portal era is now it's a business decision for them.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm illegal, if I'm any other guy, period, and like it's not going my way, yeah, I'm not going to burn a year eligibility to play in mop-up duties. And I know I have the talent to start somewhere else, or I know I can be the guy next year for this team. Heck yeah, I'm a red shirt.
Yeah, it's a year of film that you're not getting to put out there. Wait till you get the chance to actually play the reps.
That too, and then if you're getting paid NIL, you're getting paid no matter what, right or not. So
we love that.
That always helps.
Oregon just had the situation. They got the running back transfer, Mekhi Hughes, who was like a 1,600-yard rusher at Tulane. Thought he was boating for greener pastures, and I'm sure greener pastures more dollars going to Oregon. Didn't play and said, you know what, let me hold up a little bit. Let me redshirt this year and figure out my next move. So he'll probably be one of those guys leaving back out of Oregon, to find a new home.
Yeah, and going to go get paid again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're just getting started here on The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Coming up next, if you're watching on YouTube, Beanie Wells is wearing a gold long sleeve tee. King Midas gives you his pick of the week. He's undefeated on the season. That's coming up next. College football not feeling as juicy as it once did. Well, let me put you onto something that'll shake up your Saturday and every other day of the week. Because now that Wendy's has crispy chicken tendies and a powerhouse lineup of new sauces, it's time you transfer to the hottest team in the league.
That's right. Team Tendies. Wendy's Tendies, they're making their undeniable rookie season one for the books. Enjoy first-string flavor from some 5-star recruits. Rep your new favorite team everywhere you go, but make sure you cheer with your mouth closed.
Take it to the end zone of savory sauces like honey barbecue, creamy ranch, and that new Wendy's signature sauce to experience a total taste bud blitz of flavor. It's time to join the team that won't upset you with an upset.
Taste the phenom that's gracing the gridiron with its juicy, crispy, and tendery tendencies. Don't fumble the bag. Commit to Team Tendies and call the most delicious plays in the playbook. All right, huddle up. Tendies on 3. Tendies on 3. 1, 2, 3, Tendies. Let's do this. Wendy's Chicken Tendies now at participating U.S. Wendy's.
For Buckeyes and businesses, Branded Bills has you covered. Whether you're showing your scarlet and gray pride or you're building a brand of your own, nothing tops a custom hat.
Branded Bills is a proud sponsor of Ohio State athletics with licensed Buckeye headgear that looks just as good in the horseshoe as it does when you're walking around Columbus. And beyond game day, they specialize in custom headwear that helps businesses, teams, and communities stand out with premium fit, finish, and style.
So whether you are a diehard Buckeye, an entrepreneur, or just someone who want to rep their story, check out Branded Bills. Explore their official licensed Ohio State collection or design your own custom hat built just for you. Branded Bills for Buckeyes and businesses License, pride, custom style.
Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Make sure you hit us up at all socials at The Script OSU. All right, time now for our Prime Sportsbook parlay, guys. Prime Rewards, make sure you get on there. If you make your bets, you get free bonus bets. It's good stuff, especially if your name's Beanie Wells, because this guy he's on fire. He's undefeated on the season. Last week he had Illinois covering against Purdue. They did. I had the Chargers covering against the Commanders. I forget what happened. And Cardale had Iowa State.
I forgot what happened, too.
Anyway, it's all fuzzy in our head. So we're going to get to our picks in just a minute. Let me get your vibes, though, on a couple games that stood out to me. Texas actually favored by 2.5 in the Red River, home against Oklahoma. Are we assuming that means that John Mateer is out of this game? I mean, that line's a little fishy.
That most certainly has to be the case. Because if John Mateer was in, there's no way Texas would be favored, especially watching how their offenses looked in big games. Mm-hmm. You watch them last week versus Florida, wasn't the sharpest. And then on the defensive side, heck, they let Florida score, 29 points on them.
That was a get-right spot for Florida.
Exactly, 100%. So, yeah, it definitely has to be due in part to John Mateer not playing, in my opinion.
Yeah, he can't be healthy at this point in the season. I know he just had hand surgery 2 weeks ago. I don't know how quick or serious that was. But, Beanie, you made a comment about Texas not being good and offense not being good in big games. Their offense haven't been good, period. I think, they offense got booed versus UTEP at home. So this has not been a productive team, definitely failing to all of our expectations of what we thought this team was going to be.
So does it make our win versus Texas look any different?
So this is what's fascinating. Yeah. So Ohio State's resume took a little beating this week with Texas losing. Ohio U loses, the Ball State. Do you have some thoughts there, by the way, on the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still shocked that Ball State pulled it off versus a team with Ohio University. We all thought that's going to. I mean, it's still early in conference play, but that we thought was going to be favored for the MAC championship once again. I think they've been in the championship for the last 5 years. Them in Miami, Ohio. So we'll see. I think, the MAC is wide open right now, but I'm still shocked that Ball State beats Ohio.
Big game this week as my Kent State Golden Flashes host UMass. I'm sure how did that not get big noon kickoff? All right, so let's talk about Oregon. -7, home against Indiana. I love this. This is a fascinating game because you could see this thing getting away from the Hoosiers. That said, though, I mean, Mendoza's been hanging in there.
This is the game of the week to me.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to watch this football game. I mean, Indiana's offense versus Oregon's offense. I cannot wait to see it. Dante Moore has been good, but I don't think he's been great like everybody's, put out there. Like he's been, one of the best quarterbacks in the country by any means. Fernando Mendoza, on the other hand, 76% completion percentage. The dude is throwing darts. At the end of the year, mark my words, he's going to be in the discussion of being New York. Mark my words. And this is going to be the game that puts him over that hump.
This is a trick right here. Because if he go out here and do bad, he will not be in New York. He will not have that conversation. But two of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten with Dante Moore and Mendoza. This is an interesting one because Oregon is extremely good at home. I mean, they're good on the road too. You see what they did at the whiteout, but they're a different team at home, and that defense is playing lights out. And at the biggest moments, that defense is a bend but don't break, but they can also get after the pass rusher. They can also get at the passer a lot. So this is going to be an interesting one.
So we got to ask the same. If we just ask the question, or I just asked the question, if Ohio State's win versus Texas is a little skewed, is Oregon's big win versus Penn State a little skewed, considering Penn State just went out and lost to UCLA, winless UCLA?
I say no because I said this last week. The type of loss, all these seniors coming back for their last year at Penn State, their last whiteout, prime time, all this stuff. I said that loss, especially in overtime, has a potential emotional drain on you, right? As Penn State's still a good team. Now, are they a top 10 team in the country when we look at it all said and done in the season? Yes, they will be back up there. But I think that was just a perfect storm for them to get beat at home in a whiteout and then have to travel all the way across the country and playing a trap game. If they won this game, if they beat Oregon in the whiteout, this still was going to be a trap game for them. 0-4, interim head coach, all the things. I mean, you got 30 people in the stands out there in UCLA. Like, this had trap game all written on the wall for Penn State if they won or lost versus the whiteout. So I think Oregon win versus Penn State is still valid.
All right, time now for what the people have come to see. All right, The finance bros are listening. The crypto bros are listening. This guy right here. It's like tailing Warren Buffett's portfolio.
Yes.
Beanie Wells, give us leg one on this week's Prime Sportsbook parlay of the week.
Leg one is USF -1 over North Texas. And I know you may be seeming like, oh, Beanie, that's such an easy one. Well, when we talk about risking dollars and cents, you want to take the guarantee. Right now, this is the guarantee.
The risk reward factor is there.
This is the week that arrogance is going to get our guy because his tone has shifted. I mean, this is not the same. This is not week one.
4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago.
He's like, well, if you want an 11.2 return on investment, you got to go to. I mean, and what kind of sicko D-gen is betting on North Texas games? Go ahead.
And this is what winning does, man.
4 weeks ago, this guy said, "What does this mean if they're favored with a plus or the minus?" 4 weeks ago. Wait, what does the plus mean?
Over under? What's an over under? And then I was like, all right, so here's what you got to do, guys.
Oh my God. Okay. My leg is Ohio State -14.5 over Illinois. The defense is playing crazy. I don't think Ohio State. This defense is playing crazy. That's the main reason why I'm picking this spread, even though we all picked this game as a scary game at the beginning of the season. But Ohio State -14.5 over Illinois.
All right, Beanie, I need you to do me a favor here on YouTube. Just touch my shirt real quick. Just touch it. Oh, I got the power of Beanie Wells flowing through me. He passed on his power. I'm going to take Iowa State -3 at Colorado. I know Colorado thinks they're playing a little better lately. I don't see Matt Campbell dropping back-to-back games like this. He let us down last week. Matt Campbell, you let my guy Cardale down. You owe us one on a
You recruited me at Toledo, and then you want to let me down like that? Jesus
No,
Christ,
you know what it was in that Iowa State Cincinnati game? It was the fact that Dave was talking about that right before you went.
I got here,
And on the show last week, you probably should have just scrapped it because we told you.
I should have. The same thing. I every time Dave get in my head about a pick, I go the opposite way. Like I was going to take Clemson versus who was it?
Was it
Syracuse?
No, the Syracuse. I was going to take the Syracuse over. You talked me out of that one, and then this. So I can't believe you.
Am I getting check whitey on sports?
Check whitey. Don't listen. Check whitey. Go right at him. And then if you guys are extra smart, just like what Beanie said, outside the parlay, just have a one bet with Beanie USF. So you don't just ruin your parlay.
USF, apparently stone cold live. All right, make sure you get on Prime Sportsbook. Check out that Prime Rewards program. It's good stuff. Must be 21 and over to play. Odds subject to change. If you think you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Coming up next, we're going to fix Penn State because, James Franklin can't do it. Someone has to. We'll be right back with more Script. Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Click subscribe right now on YouTube. Video version is the most fun, or you can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. All right, time now for our Dr. Pepper look around the world of college football. Two teams. Proud traditions a lot of people were sleeping on in the past couple of years. All right, so Alabama looked like they were down under Kalen DeBoer. Now they're starting to come back. Miami was down for quite some time, basically since the Buckeyes broke them back in the Fiesta Bowl. Now they're back. So I'm going to ask both you guys, who are you more confident in now? This version of the Miami Hurricanes or the Alabama Crimson Tide?
I'd go this version of the Miami Hurricanes. And the reason being, obviously, they got Carson Beck, a quarterback, but their defense is so good. Reuben Bain Jr. on the defensive line is amazing. Akeem Messidor is amazing at rushing the passer. They got some dudes on that defensive line that can change the tone of the game. And I think that's how they've been getting it done. Last year, you look at Miami, they were great on offense, but the defense gave up so many points. This year, that has completely shifted. Mario Cristobal has found something in Miami. The question is if it's going to be sustainable. They've been doing it through the transfer portal, not recruiting and developing their guys. So for sustainability, I'd go Alabama. But right now, this year, I'm going you.
I agree. I piggyback on everything you said. This team is built different when you talk about on defense side of the ball. And then one thing that you was never able to really say about an Alabama team is that they can't stop the rushing attack. Right now, they can't stop it. I don't know if it's a different mindset of how they're recruiting or building or their focus on defense. That's an issue. But you look at Miami on defense, they corrected everything that they have flaws with last year, with basically wasting a year with Cam Ward having an opportunity to be a national championship contender if they would have had some relevance of a defense and not trying to get in a shootout every single game. But that has changed. And still having a productive quarterback like a Carson Beck who has national championship experience and big-time winning experience. And then let's not talk about the run game. I'm surprised you didn't mention Mark Fletcher Jr. And the two-headed monster they have in that backfield who's able to control the line of scrimmage and control the clock. When you're able to do those two things play great defense, and control the time of possession, you're going to put yourself in position to win a lot of games. And that's what the Miami is doing right now.
Yeah, they look good. We're going to learn a lot about Alabama this week as well when they go on the road against Missouri. All right, Clemson. Look, when you become Dabo's get-right spot, we're about rock bottom in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Bill Belichick got absolutely throttled. Yes?
That's another one. Deuces.
Oh.
It was fun while it lasted. See you later.
So you think Belichick is going to be a one and done by his own choice or by someone else's choice? Are we going to mutually agree to walk away
Mutually agree, rightfully so, respectfully. I think it's just not for him. I just think the way he tried to build a program, which is a great way, but there's too many moving parts to what you're trying to do on a college level. I always said this was a way for him to hand the keys over to his son for this team, but I don't even think that's going to happen because, Belichick, man, he's an NFL coach.
Yep.
And going into a college university with not as much talent you used to dealing with, and so many more hurdles to deal with, I just don't see him getting it done in a short period of time where it's not leaving a stain on his resume.
Yeah.
They tried to treat it like a NFL program. You brought in 70 new players and expected 70 new guys to be able to gel all cohesively and for you to be able to get the best out of them. Well, these aren't pros. They're college kids. So you have to be able to dumb it down for them and get them to understand a certain way and a certain tempo to where they can buy in. This ain't the NFL. He tried to treat it like
but not even that. They just don't have the talent there. They don't have the talent to want to do some of the things you want to do. They don't have the personnel, right? And then, when you talk about the guys you need to do the things you want to do and buy in the way you want them to buy in, those guys are at other major universities because those universities and those coaches are proven at that level to get you there. Not a guy who's coming down to see if he can do it here.
Yeah. Imagine being Dabo Swinney and you're starting to feel a little bit of a hot seat and you look at the schedule, you think, thank God I get Belichick this week, right? Like man. But outside of Pete Carroll, there are a few guys. I mean, like you said, Nick Saban didn't set the world on fire with the Dolphins. It is no guarantee that you're going to be good at both. Another team I want to ask you about. So if you guys don't know, Beanie and Cardale both do work for CBS Sports. This is why we talk the world of college football because they got their ears to the streets here. Texas Tech, 5-0. Do you guys think Texas Tech is a legitimate playoff caliber team?
They got the best team money can buy. They went out and spent so much money in the portal, and now you're watching them have this success out there on the football field. Yes, I do think they're a legit team. They probably will win the conference, and they probably will be in the college. I know they will win the conference and be in the college football playoff without question.
100%. This team is good. They're really good. They play great defense. They play actually really good complementary football. They don't have any world burners on offense, but they just play really good. They protect the ball. And man, every time, Baron Morton he's killing it. But every time you see them make a tackle, there's multiple hats around the ball. This is a lively defense, and for the style of Big 12 play. Now, I don't know how that's going to match up versus the other top teams when you talk about the college football playoffs. But they're definitely going to win the Big 12.
Well, that was our look around the world, sponsored by Dr. Pepper. A lot of stuff to talk about in college football. There is one team we left out, guys, and it is time to dim the lights, dig in. Here we go. It's our Buckeye Basement solution. Every week we try to diagnose something like Buckeye Basement does. For your basement, we try to come up with a solution in the world of college football. James Franklin lost to UCLA. Penn State lost to UCLA, one of the worst power schools in the entire country. Jim Knowles, the former defensive coordinator, gave up 42 points to Nico. A reminder, he only gave up 17 to Nico in a playoff game when he had a good team around him in Tennessee. So, guys, is the only solution, the only Buckeye Basement solution, to get rid of James Franklin and start over?
No, I don't think so.
Wow.
I mean, I know it sounds as easy as that, but when you look at James Franklin's tenure at Penn State, they've been good. They've been very competitive. They're always going to be a team that's going to be in a discussion. Now, you got to have a break to be able to, get to the college football playoff or to win a national championship. You got to have that little break that you get, that little lucky slate. I mean, it's a little bit of luck in winning a national championship because everything has to go right. Penn State just hadn't had everything go right. I like James Franklin. I know you're probably just looking at me giving that look.
No,
I'm trying
to think of someone's name.
the
But no,
other
go ahead.
pieces that he has on that team that maybe quarterback. Maybe they should have kept Bo Perbula.
Hmm?
Maybe that would have been a difference maker for him.
Drew Aller has not lived up to all 5 of his stars. That is no question. But Cardale's looking at you with this.
No, I'm
Are you
trying to,
disgusted
no,
or
I'm not.
confused?
I'm not because I'm trying to think of someone's name. Jim Franklin is Pat Narduzzi.
Mm,
Jim Franklin is Pat Narduzzi. That was the Wisconsin coach, right? Or
Northwestern.
no, not
No,
he
Pat
wasn't.
was at Pittsburgh.
No, who was?
Are we all just wrong
No,
up here?
I'm sorry. Bo Pelini.
Oh, Bo Pelini, Nebraska.
Nebraska. Yeah.
All right.
Nebraska.
We're back on track. Yes.
Always have high standards, but going to float around that 10, maybe 1 year crazy, get 11 wins a season,
Mhm.
and just be in the conversations. I mean, he had that job for so long with just being in conversations of being a top team in the country, but no real expectations. So every time he fell short, it wasn't as much backlash on him, right? That's who Franklin is at this point. Because if you put his record with any coach at a place like Ohio State, he don't make it through half of the time that he's been there,
Mhm.
right? I mean, if Ryan Day had the track record of what this guy have in big games, don't get me wrong, his Achilles heel right now is as a head coach. Okay, you haven't beat Michigan, but if you put that on there, you're under 500 versus Penn State, you're 500 versus Illinois or Indiana and all these other shit, like he would not be here.
Mhm.
So this is another luxury when you talk about coaching a place like Penn State versus Ohio State. Same, but different. Like
Joe,
you know what I'm saying?
But how
We
many
say-
national championships did Joe Paul win? I mean, it wasn't like he set the world on fire for winning.
not
He
national
was in
championship,
discussions with
but
Big
how
Ten
many Big
titles.
Ten?
Yeah.
He had a shit ton of Big Ten championships. I tell you that.
Yeah, no,
And he was
I'd agree there.
competitive. He was competitive versus Ohio State every year, and he was competitive versus Michigan every year. So he had I don't know it off the top of my head, but he had a competitive record versus those guys and versus the other top programs around the country.
I venture to say that James Franklin has been very competitive in these big games. He hasn't won them, which obviously that's what you want to do.
But that was Bo Pelini.
It takes a lot to win a football game, and especially when they come down to the wire, like the games we're talking about in James Franklin. The Ohio State game, obviously that was always a tough one. The game that they lost to Oregon, that comes down to double overtime, and the guy makes a mistake and throws a pick. So I just don't believe it's all on him.
Damn, Beanie, do you got a Penn State tattoo on your back? Holy man!
I'll tell you what,
These
man.
are a little blue.
James Franklin's own agent couldn't do any better than Beanie's
I'm
doing.
selling
right
for it, man.
Hey,
James,
you know what? I respect
James,
it.
you know you're my guy, though. That's
I
why.
respect it because Beanie want to keep him so we can keep beating him. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, keep him in the room. But the funny thing is, though, so Cardale's point of Bo Pelini is a good one because when he came in, people were mad. This guy's not Tom Osborne, right? Like, he's not that guy. But Bo Pelini, if I'm not mistaken, took them to a national championship game. They lost, but what happened when they got rid of Bo Pelini? When they thought they were too good
That's
for
what
Bo
I said.
Pelini?
But that's the thing, though, is too, when you talk about that in a lot of stupid conversations of last year of firing Ryan Day and stuff
Right.
like that, it's not just that. It's one, who you didn't go get to replace him,
Mhm.
right? And you got to get the right person in these situations, these major universities. Look what Florida State did after they got rid of Jimbo Fisher. Not saying he was the right guy, but you're going to take some steps back and you go through 3 coaches before you think you found the guy. And look what Florida did after they got rid of Jesus Christ, not Urban. Who was this guy after Urban?
So after Urban, they went through a bunch of people. They went through Charlie
8
Strong. They went
There was
through
one more.
Dan McMullen.
Dan
Mullen.
Yeah, Mullen,
Dan
but he had a winning record.
McMullen, that
I
was a
think
Nick on him.
his
Yeah.
Dan Mullen,
They
he
went
had
through
a,
Dan Chicken McMullen.
but he had a winning record, and then they get rid of him, and then like, oh, we can do better, and then look what's been happening ever since.
Mhm.
Okay, so here's the thing, all right? When Tennessee thought they were too good for Philip Fulmer, guy who won them a national title, downhill.
Yeah.
Nebraska thought they were too good for Bo Pelini, downhill.
Yeah.
So let me ask the two of you. Would you want to play for Penn State? Is that a place that in 2025 can recruit well, can be a national title team, or are they now in, old school Wisconsin territory, which is you take your 10-2 and you go home and you like it?
Would I want to play for? That's tough. I mean, Yeah, I would play for Penn State.
Yeah,
I would.
yeah.
I mean, they're still a big enough brand.
Yeah, they're still going to compete nationally. Still going to recruit nationally.
I don't want to live in Happy Valley.
Yeah. We talk about life after football.
Right.
I don't know, but they're still going to compete nationally. They're still going to recruit nationally. They're still going to have that brand. They're still going to have a great group because it's not a talent issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a talent issue. It's just like they just a step or two or a piece or two away from really being able to make that jump. And honestly, I don't even think that. Because you go down to the turnover to beat Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at they was a turnover away to be in a national championship last year.
Yeah.
So it's just it's other small pieces that's missing. There's still a national brand, still a national powerhouse of all the college football.
By the way, same guy made both those turnovers. Mr. 5-star grew out.
That's what I'm saying.
Same guy. All right, so that's our Buckeye Basement Solution. Hey, if you have any issues with your basement, they've got you covered. Get on BuckeyeBasementSolutions.com or give them a call, 614-956-4592. I want to finish today with a conversation I don't necessarily want to have, but I think it's one that we need to have. And if you've been following the news on Kyron Lacy, he is the former LSU wide receiver, had dreams of playing in the NFL. Those dreams went terribly wrong when an awful thing happened, and he was charged with negligent homicide because police said he was at fault for a deadly crash. And then what happened was Kyron Lacy, after dealing with the backlash, died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. It is tragic times 1,000. Now, new details this week, new video shows that he may, in fact, have not had anything to do with that crash, and it's making people look at police down there in Louisiana. I know some lawmakers are calling for new rules and reviews. Guys, this is as sad as it gets. He was so young. Sad that someone lost their life in the original car crash. Sad that it looks like they had this thing all wrong. This is just one of the saddest stories I can remember in college football.
It is. It's so disheartening. And it makes you wonder, like, what took so long for video evidence to come out to show this? Because immediately in my mind, I say, if there's a traffic incident that happens, we go to the cameras. We go to the traffic cameras. There's cameras on nearly every stoplight. So what took so long? And then two, the law enforcement guys who tried to coerce this guy into saying it was your fault. You are at fault. And making him feel like it was his fault that caused the death of someone else when he had nothing to do with it is so disheartening. And it's just sad to see not only the fact that he was a talented athlete. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why we're talking about it, because he's so popular because of that. But the mere fact that this was a human thing, this happened to a human being that's being coerced into believing that he did something and caused a death that he had nothing to do with. That is embarrassing from a law enforcement perspective, and it's disheartening from a human perspective.
Yeah, it's extremely frustrating because when you put, I got to give a credit to his lawyer, who was a dog with a scent, who would not let this thing go and dug up all the evidence he could. Without their lawyer for the family, the Lacy family, I guarantee this thing would have been swept under the rug. We, even if the evidence came out, but for the ones that we trust and turn to in our time of need, our law enforcement, for them to do a horrible job at their job, and for a witness to say, hey, no, it was this, and then law enforcement say, no, you need to say this. Like, are you forgetting you got a body camera on? And two, what made you do that? Right? It goes, I don't understand how they can't be held accountable. It goes back to if someone is cyberbullying or bullying someone in school and someone calls self-harm because of that person who was doing the bullying, they're accountable for, some type of, repercussions to those incidents. And I think everyone involved who made false statements from, unfortunately we can't do nothing about the media, but the media, who jump on just a scent of a story to be the first ones to break it, you should be ashamed of yourself too.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting out a false narrative. This guy got uninvited from the NFL draft. He was projected to be a top NFL draft pick, and his life was pretty much crashing right before his eyes. So I can only imagine the stress and the strain and depression that he felt, knowing that his life was potentially over at that point.
And he's a young kid. We know how young kids are. Football is their life.
Yeah,
especially
and feeling like it was about to be taken away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you got nothing to live for.
Imagine that depression. One, football's being taken away. Two, they're blaming you for essentially killing somebody. So imagine the deeper depression you go in because you think you took a life, and probably he probably didn't think that, but everybody's made to believe that.
Everybody's saying that.
The narrative's there.
Yeah, the narrative is there. Then him and his family getting death threats about it, and he We got to walk around that city, people knowing, like, so I can only imagine what he was going through and, what ultimately him for decide to, take his own life for something that he didn't even do.
As a parent, I got 3 kids, and that is some of the hardest, probably would be the hardest thing I'd ever have to face, is knowing that my kid was 1, in a deep, dark depression, and then 2, he ended up taking his own life. And then 3, everybody's coming down on him for something that he had nothing to do with.
Yeah.
That's got to be the hardest thing in the world. My heart goes out to his parents, man.
Yeah, and as someone who's worked in media for 20 years, let me say this. There has never been a worse time because of social media. Everyone wants to get out early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody wants to have the discovery first.
Everyone wants to be first, man. And all that matters in media is to be right, not to be first. But we sadly live in a society that benefits first. People get excited when you're first, and you get prestige for being first. I hope this just makes us pump the brakes a little bit on that. Like, we just got to stop trying to figure things out immediately and just get it right, man. Like just get it right, because there's no doubt in my mind that Kyron Lacy would still be alive today if that narrative didn't get out there and get
100%.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Just to, I know we're probably not going to dive too much on it, but the Mark Sanchez. Everybody saw Mark Sanchez is in the hospital.
Yes.
And we all went to, prayers for Mark Sanchez until more details come out about that story.
Yes.
So we need to pump the brakes again on things until we get more details about what actually transpires.
Always 2 sides to the story.
There is. And it's always okay to not talk about something if you don't know about something. Like, that's always an option. And, I hope they come up with something down there, whether it's through law enforcement or new laws, to make sure this stuff doesn't happen again, because there's no way Kyron Lacy should not be here today. All right, that'll do it for us on this week of The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll be back here next week. New episodes drop every Wednesday. We'll see you then.